Welcome to Vice Casting Couch, Season 1, Episode 25. And today we're going to be talking about Ubiquiti hacked, Facebook still crap, and hide your browser, hide your IP, because everybody getting tracked out here. I am Brian, and joining me is, of course, John.
Yeah, we out here in Louisville today.
And, yep, and, which one?
Hey, man, I can't tell you everything.
Oh, yeah.
ExpressVPN knows they keeping logs now.
They did actually update their privacy. Yeah, it was a little disappointing. It's not much, but apparently ExpressVPN now tracks. I think they did this before. I think they're just being more transparent about it, which is appreciated, but still, it's a little concerning. I know we've touted ExpressVPN in the past as being pretty good, but now they, I guess, keep logs of app versions, dates when you're connected to the VPN service, your choice of server, and the total amount of data transferred per day. They claim that none of this can be used to actually track what you're doing. It can't be linked to any specific behavior or anything like that, but it's a little, makes me a little nervous.
That's a no from me, dog.
Yeah.
It's either no logs or no service.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I will be
That's what they tell you, man. You got to take their word, you know.
This is very true. So today I was going into like an anti-piracy thing, which I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it's kind of disconcerting how many VPNs say, yeah, we don't track you, you know, we don't keep any logs, blah blah. But when they're actually pressured, they come out with a lot more info than you would want them to. But yeah, that's we'll talk about that a little more in depth later on. Did you change your Facebook info after the last hack?
Well, so, you know, there's a report that came out that 533 million Facebook users had their phone numbers and some other personal data leaked online. But when we look into it, the leaked data includes like your full names, your Facebook IDs, mobile numbers, locations, email addresses, gender, occupation, city, country, marital status, account creation date, and some other profile details. But it doesn't say anything about passwords or anything like that. They say over 32 million records belong to users in the United States, 11 million records are for UK individuals, and at least 6 million are from India, among a bunch of other people. What's interesting is included in this leaked information are phone numbers for Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook CEO, some co-founders, Chris Huge and Dustin Moskovitz, and then those people are the 4th, 5th, and 6th members to have registered on Facebook. What is also even more interesting is that phone number for Mark Zuckerberg is registered on the privacy-focused messaging app Signal. Very interesting, seeing that's a competing privacy app compared to WhatsApp. So,
interesting.
If he can't trust his own stuff, why are you trusting it? So
that is very interesting.
Some of the more data being offered includes information from people of 106 countries. Additionally, the data seems to have been obtained by exploiting a vulnerability that enabled like automated scripts to scrape a user's profile information. Generally, this is done with the phone numbers. So like this feature is normally used for like, hey, let's check your contacts and see who else has Facebook, and then you can add a bunch of friends. Yeah. Well, apparently they were just kind of going at it and scraping as much as they could. This was supposedly leaked in 2019. And they said they found and fixed the issue in August of 2019. But it's still concerning that this is out there on the internet, especially when it's 500 million people's information. They say to be very wary of any potential phishing attempts.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing interesting is with this coming out, there's been a Telegram bot that has popped up, which allows you to either send a Facebook ID or a phone number, and then it'll scrape all the information for you and send it to you for a fee.
Interesting. And I saw that when I was looking at that story, it was all online for free as well. They're not even selling the
the main information released. Is on a forum. I think they said it was on the dark web or something.
Yeah. That's always the go-to answer. It's on the dark web. But that's interesting that Mark Zuckerberg's using Signal. It's especially since they just came out and said, "Oh, WhatsApp, we've updated a bunch of stuff. It's completely secure. It's okay. You can use it."
I thought so too. I was like, he doesn't even trust it. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've said in the past that WhatsApp is basically trash. The way that they implement their encryption is not good for what we've seen. But yeah, if you're new and this is first time listening, please do not use WhatsApp. use Signal instead because they actually have not been hacked.
They've had issues, but nothing incredibly severe.
Nowhere near anything that a lot of other messaging apps have come under fire for, especially WhatsApp. I mean, WhatsApp, they literally have a software that was made for their app to hack people, which kind of tells you a lot if they're willing to put in the work to make a separate software for that specific app. But speaking of tracking and leaked data, I ran across a story from January from TorrentFreak.com, and they were going over anti-piracy. So in the EU, there's this group called Rights Alliance, right? And they have claimed victory over all Danish pirates. So
what?
Yeah. So there was two torrent websites, Danish Bits and Nordic Bits. They went offline last year during the fall, and they're basically taken offline, directly linked to Rights Alliance being behind it in coordination with some anti-piracy, some police and stuff in the EU. But the Rights Alliance, they got their start, just for a little background on them. They used to be part of the Swedish Anti-Piracy Bureau, or the Svenska Anti-Piracybyrån, however you pronounce that. I'm probably butchering it. But they used to be a Swedish lobby group that represented TV companies, movie companies, video game companies in the EU or in Sweden. But they kind of branched off, and now they're kind of like that old lady in your neighborhood who looks out of her blinds at everyone walking past her house. That's what they've kind of become. They kind of go after repeat offenders on torrent websites and stuff like that. So obviously people just went to another torrent site, right? These two sites went down. They just went to another one because there's dozens out there. But the Rights Alliance put out a statement, or a warning, if you will, and they said they are closely monitoring the situation. And they said, even if you have a VPN, they will find you, and they will hand over your IP to the actual police. The VPN comment kind of got a lot of people talking and wondering what exactly they meant by this, because obviously everyone touts having a VPN as, masking everything that you do online. So what exactly did they mean by this? Well, they came out with like an explainer, if you will, afterwards. And said that because many countries are now viewing online piracy as a more serious criminal offense, they're now starting to invoke the Budapest Convention. And basically what that means is they're doing what the US has been doing for years. They basically go to a country and they say, hey, we think this person's a criminal, so please hand over everything you have on them. And this includes all VPN companies. So in other words, Rights Alliance is correct that it will be easier to request information from VPN providers concerning online piracy. And if VPNs keep extensive logs, they'll be able to identify the user. However, many VPNs, don't keep logs, so they have little to share, which is what you look for in a good VPN company, which is why ExpressVPN kind of adding some transparency to what they actually collect is a little concerning. That said, since it's a criminal matter, in some jurisdictions, VPNs can be compelled to assist law enforcement to monitor certain IP addresses, which means that even if they don't keep logs, if they do see what you're doing or what you're connecting to with your IP, they can be coerced by the government to kind of monitor that IP if they think that's the one that belongs to a criminal that they're trying to find. So it may make them easier to track around the internet, even if you do have a VPN. So they're kind of right, but it's pretty broad and a little misleading. But this does bring up a really important issue, and one that we've talked about many times on the show, which is what your VPN actually logs and which ones to go with. For me, there's always like 3 questions that I look at when trying to purchase a VPN or trying to decide if a VPN is good enough. Obviously, you shouldn't just go with whatever's cheapest or whoever's having a deal now or something like that. The first question is, what country are they in? The Budapest Convention does not encompass the globe. There's only certain companies that are in this convention or have ratified this convention and given their signature. There is a lot of them, especially the EU, including the US and Canada. And Australia and a few other ones outside the EU.
Does it include Sweden?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, they're in the EU. So yeah, it includes Sweden. So just keep that in mind, because, we bring up, 14 eyes and 5 eyes and 4 eyes or whatever else. There's a lot of countries, that are in these agreements that allows them to extradite information from each other. So just be wary of that when you're choosing a VPN. The second question is, how do they store their data? Or do they store their data? Some VPN companies use hard drives for their service, which is an issue, because obviously that's written to, and they usually don't erase it. They log it. ExpressVPN, in that regard, they are pretty good because they only use RAM for their servers, which is great because once it turns off, it doesn't keep the data. And the last question is, what's their track record? I know ExpressVPN, they have been pretty good with their track record when they have been forced to turn over data. They usually don't turn over a whole lot because they don't have a whole lot. I don't know how that'll be moving forward. Well, that remains to be seen. But what's their track record? There's plenty of websites out there who keep a log of what VPN companies have given to governments and stuff like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, companies, they follow two rules, and that's basically money and covering their own ass. And they'll do both of those every time if either of those are jeopardized. So just keep that in mind. The Budapest Convention is now being invoked with a lot of criminal investigations concerning online piracy. So if you're considering changing a VPN service or getting one, I would definitely recommend getting one just for everyday stuff like banking or what have you, or buying airline tickets. It's very helpful. Or watching Netflix or what have you. But yeah, if you want it for other stuff, definitely keep in mind what the VPN companies actually do and look into the fine print on their website and other independent websites that actually review these VPNs.
And also another thing to keep in mind is while your VPN does log stuff, the easiest way for them to get you is if you use bad OPSEC. If you log into another account while using the same VPN session, and this goes with Tor as well. That's how they've de-anonymized a lot of Tor individuals. It's just due to poor and improper OPSEC, or none at all. And because Tor by itself is actually very good. If you have good OPSEC and you know what you're doing, they'll never catch you on Tor. But a few VPNs I did want to shout out are Molvad VPN. They're based in Sweden, but they have been independently audited. They're very transparent. They accept Bitcoin and even cash. So you can mail them a blank envelope with no return address with cash. With your, and they don't even use an email address. They give you a number. They're like, oh, here's your generated number. Send us the cash, and boom, you're good. Another one, Proton VPN. They're in Switzerland, and Switzerland has one of the best secrecy laws on the planet, not only to like internet, but also to banking. So if you're doing a bunch of sus stuff, look in there.
Okay, I don't know if we can say sus stuff, but any activity.
Well, I think sus can vary from country to country and moral standings. And,
well, that is true. That is true. Okay. Yeah. But yes, I would definitely agree. Yeah, if you're using a VPN for anything, and a lot of these websites do mention that. They're like, hey, if you're using a VPN and you're logging into a shady website or something like that, that login session, if they get your email address or something like that, and it's not a throwaway email or something like that, it can be tracked back to you. So be careful when you're doing that. But yeah, I pulled up this website called restoreprivacy.com. Obviously, all the links will be in the description. But they brought up a few cases. I guess Pure VPN, they claimed that they didn't keep logs. However, there was a recent court case where it specifies in there that because of Pure VPN's records that they kept, they were able to catch a guy who was, I guess he was stalking someone online or something like that. I forgot what he was doing.
Oh, that's my favorite pastime.
But okay, let's not incriminate ourselves.
I plead the fifth.
You can if it's recorded. Anyways, but yes, he was basically caught because of, basically they were just lying on their site. They were saying, you are invisible, even we can't see what you're doing online, blah, blah, blah. But it came up in the court case that that's not necessarily true. There's also a bunch of websites that will check if your VPN has leaks as well, which definitely check to see if that is an issue for that certain VPN. But yeah, I just thought that was very interesting, and definitely do your research when you're looking at a VPN, because there's a lot out there who claim to do a lot of different things, but they're not necessarily living up to their fine print.
One of the things you can always do is, if you don't trust your own device, you can put a VPN on like your router, and then it'll encrypt everything it sends to it. So then you have a couple layers of trust that have to be broken, and then you could always just run Tor on top of it. So, there's tons of things you can do. We're not suggesting you do anything illegal. It's just if you are really paranoid like we tend to be, there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
speaking of routers, I was going to talk about Ubiquiti and their data breach that happened.
Oh, yeah.
So Ubiquiti, they're a pretty known brand. They make a lot of network devices like switches and routers, and they're actually very interesting. They have their software-defined networking, and I honestly think that'll be the future. But there's a whistleblower who came to a prominent security blog called Krebs on Security, and they cited that there was a huge data breach to their cloud-based devices. So in January, the makers of Ubiquiti, they make internet-connected cameras and other network devices. They disclosed that there was an unauthorized access to certain of our information technology systems hosted on a third-party cloud provider. The real sketchy thing is they didn't really provide that much information. They were trying to downplay it. They said there was no evidence of intruders accessing user data and that the company couldn't rule out the possibility that they obtained usernames, emails, or even hash passwords and phone numbers and such. But Ubiquiti did recommend that they change their password and enable two-factor authentication. But on this blog, the whistleblower, he came out and said that the breach is much worse than Ubiquiti let on, and that the executives were trying to minimize damage to protect the company's stock price. So the breach, it comes as Ubiquiti is pushing, if not outright requiring, cloud-based accounts for users set up and administering devices running on newer firmware versions. They say that this initial setup is the unified dream machine. Users will then be prompted to log into their cloud-based account. So they're kind of forcing you when you get one of their devices. But the whistleblower then says the attacker has gained administrative access to Ubiquiti servers at Amazon Cloud Services, and then which secures their underlying server hardware and software, but requires the cloud tenant to secure access of any of the data they stored. They were able to get the cryptographic secrets for some single sign-on cookies and remote access, and then for the full source code control contents and signing key exfiltration. It then says the attackers had access to privileged credentials that were previously stored on a LastPass account that Ubiquiti's IT employees used, and they were able to gain root administrator access to all of Ubiquiti's AWS accounts, including all their S3 data buckets, application logs, databases, user database credentials, and their single sign-on cookies. With this, they would be able to remotely authenticate. Oh, yes. They strongly recommend that you change your passwords and enable two-factor authentication. I would recommend anyone who has a Ubiquiti device to do that immediately.
Yeah.
This is very concerning from such a major network like device provider. Mm-hmm. Like I'm surprised that this hasn't gotten more press. I've seen a few articles out there, but like I said, Ubiquiti has really been trying to downplay it to protect their stock price.
Yeah. Again, protecting profits and their own ass.
According to their own website, they've shipped over 85 million devices. They play a key role in network infrastructure in over 200 countries and territories worldwide. So this is pretty serious thing. There is a way to not have their kind of forced cloud account. You can make a local account, but it's kind of hidden and you have to do your own research. But I would recommend disabling the remote access and changing all passwords immediately.
Yeah, and this goes for anything that the stories that we bring up, like learn from people's mistakes, or at least I try to, like the Facebook hack or this Ubiquiti hack. Like if you see something online about another company getting hacked like this, you should probably put the barricades and the restrictions in place beforehand, before it happens to the company that would affect you. Like with the Facebook thing, after that happened, I mean, I would advise anyone, and even before it happened, but go onto your about info and stuff like that. I would not use your full name. I put a bunch of this on our Twitter account as well. But yeah, don't use your full name. Maybe make a throwaway email or something like that. One that you're not going to use for anything else, and just put that on all your social medias. It's not tied to like your bank account and all that. Because a lot of people use like the same email for everything. Or with this, I mean, Ubiquiti got hacked, but who knows that whoever else may get hacked next. So put two-factor authentication on your router now, before the company that it's tied to, gets compromised. But yeah, so even if you don't have a Ubiquiti hardware, I would definitely recommend doing that with whatever you have currently.
Well, and that's the thing people got to understand is hacking is going to become the norm. With everything moving digital, something's going to get hacked eventually. It's just a cat and mouse game, until vulnerabilities get found. Like, honestly, that's why they recommend password managers. I've recommended Bitwarden. I know a lot of people, it's very easy to do. And if you are paranoid about them having access, you can run your own Bitwarden server in your house on like a Raspberry Pi or something. And that way, you have full control. You know exactly who has access to it, which is you. They have tons of browser extensions, mobile apps. I use it on everything, and it generates passwords for you. You can store notes, and I'm not getting paid, but they're open source, and I am a huge advocate of open source technology because anyone can look at it and they can be like, hey, maybe this isn't the best way we can implement the security, and they can always change it,
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, I use them as well, and I've never had an issue with them. It's super easy to use, and again, we're not sponsored by them or anything. We're not sponsored by anyone, actually. We just
we revoked our ExpressVPN sponsorship.
We were not sponsored by them either. We just like them, but now it'll remain to be seen whether we still like them.
And it really depends on what you're doing. If you're just using your VPN for banking, ExpressVPN's a-okay. But you'll be fine, I said, if you're doing some sus activities on the internet, maybe look for a different provider.
Yeah, and not that we condone it, but we know people have different needs. So, and I just want to reiterate, I know we've said it before. I know we've said it before, but any free VPN is never free. Don't use free VPNs.
Well, I think if we're really getting into this discussion, anything that's free is not free. You are the product. You are what's making the revenue. Look at Facebook. It's only free because they can sell your data and give you ads, and that's it.
Yeah, and especially with something that is meant to protect you, like VPNs. I mean, just look at TunnelBear. Any VPN that you can download from the Play Store or the App Store, or you can download offline for free, it's not actually free. Be very careful with it. I mean, I would just say don't use it at all. Just invest a little bit of money. Most of them are pretty cheap. They're like $5 a month or something like that. Just get a good VPN, but just do research beforehand and, take that in consideration.
If you're especially paranoid, you can just run a VPS and run your own VPN. And that way, no one will know what it is.
I mean, true, but I don't know if a lot of people have that desperate of a need. But
join us in the next 3 months when we eventually make a tutorial on how to make your own VPN service.
I mean, yeah, we definitely could, actually. It's not a bad
But speaking of needs, and this one's almost a universal need. Yeah, so federal prosecutors, they have indicted a Kansas man for allegedly logging into a computer system that controls the public water system and tampering with the process for cleaning and disinfecting customers' drinking water. This indictment was filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Kansas, which they alleged a 22-year-old male, Wyatt A. Travanchnik, I can't pronounce that, but he's from Ellsworth County, Kansas, who was an employee at the company Post Rock Water District from January 2018 to January 2019. This facility serves more than 1,500 retail customers and 10 wholesale customers in 8 of Kansas's counties. Part of Wyatt's responsibilities included remote logging into the water district's computer system to monitor the plant after hours. In late March 2019, they said that Post Rock experienced a remote intrusion to its computer system that resulted in the shutdown of the facility's process for ensuring water is safe to drink. They did not say how Wyatt allegedly gained access to Post Rock's facility, but they did say his prior position as an employee who remotely logged in after hours is very probable for him doing it. They also noted that the water officials did not secure their credentials by not closing Wyatt's remote access account after he left. No one at the facilities was available to take any questions, though. He is supposedly going to be charged with 1 count of reckless damage to a protected computer during unauthorized access, and he faces a maximum sentence of 25 years in prison and $500,000 in fines. These allegations are similar to another incident that actually happened in Oldsmar, Florida, where someone broke into the computer system of their municipality's water treatment plant, and they tried to poison the drinking water.
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
So the intruder went in there, and there's a chemical called sodium hydroxide, which is normally used to treat the acidity of the water and remove some metals and even sanitize it to an extent. And the normal amount for this is 100 parts per million. Well, this guy yanked it all the way up to 11,000 parts per million.
Goodness gracious.
It was also noted that at this Oldsmar facility in Florida, they were running an unsupported version of Windows that had no firewall and had an account for TeamViewer that had a shared password that all the employees used.
Goodness gracious.
No matter where you are, be it Kansas or Florida, your water could be potentially at risk.
From what I read, they did catch it before it actually poisoned anyone.
Yeah,
so,
I don't see any notes of anyone getting harmed or anything. It's just it's very concerning that all of our critical infrastructure is just open on the internet.
Yes, that is a little concerning. Maybe they should invest in a good VPN.
Maybe actually using a firewall too. It said they had no firewall. So
yeah, that probably helped too. And not having a shared password posted
I don't know
online.
what it means by an unsupported version of Windows. Are they talking Windows XP? What's going on? Probably.
I'm assuming they mean a version of Windows that's no longer getting patches.
Interesting.
I mean, that could be anything, up to Windows 8.
Well, it's interesting because Windows XP, like, believe it or not, there's still a lot of devices out there in the wild that use it, especially like hospitals and, and these SCADA systems.
Yeah, we talked about that before when we brought up vulnerabilities in hospital equipment. They were still running Windows XP in like a vast majority of hospitals just because it's way too expensive for them to upgrade, so they just don't.
Yeah, shout out to Bill Gates.
Or the proprietary software that they run only works with an older version, and then the company is like, oh, you want to upgrade your software? Well, that'll be a couple $1 million or something for you to upgrade for us to give you the newest version. And then
generally it becomes with an upgrade to the whole equipment. Like if your MRI machine wants to keep working, you either have to use Windows XP or fork over like $5 million to get a new one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not really doable for a lot of hospitals, even though they should be looking into it. It is a little concerning that all the stuff keeps on getting hacked. We hear about tech companies and stuff like that getting hacked all the time. That's kind of become mainstream, especially in the past decade. But then you see, infrastructures getting hacked, like SolarWinds or water treatment plants and stuff like that. And it's a little more frightening than a router manufacturer or something like that.
I think I'm gonna pull a Ted Kaczynski and move off the grid.
Good luck. Oh my word.
Real quick. One more thing. Seeing we are a device casting couch, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to do a quick mention. I know this is a little old, but Nvidia actually did some really cool stuff that people have been wanting for a long time. So with Nvidia makes graphics cards, and they have different tiers. They have their GeForce, which is for gaming. They have their Quadro, which is more of a professional workstation, and then they have their Tesla cards for like supercomputers. Well, on the Quadro and Tesla lines, they've had virtualization enabled since forever. And a lot of people, especially like enthusiasts like us, they'll want to run a virtual machine and pass over their graphics card. Well, Nvidia has blocked this in the drivers for the longest time. And if you ran like a Windows virtual machine, you get a code 43, your graphics card wouldn't work, and it would be crippled, essentially. Well, recently they have enabled, they call it beta support in the graphics driver for GeForce cards, the ones that everyone has. Well, it's not really beta support. When you look into it, it's the same stuff they've been doing on their Quadro line and their Tesla line. And I just wanted to quickly give a shout out. I think this is the way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
This allows people like me who have recently gone to Linux full time. I could run a Windows virtual machine and pass my graphics card over, and it would have full control. I could play GTA 5 in a virtual machine if I really wanted to.
Nice.
The only thing they haven't done, which is unfortunate, is this, SR-IOV, which allows you to essentially split your graphics card, so multiple machines can have access to it at the same time. So you'd still have to give full control to one operating system or the other. But I think this is a step in the right direction and allows us enthusiasts and home lab people to start tinkering with this technology more and get our feet wet.
Nice. Yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction. I don't really understand why manufacturers... I mean, I get why they have different tiers of stuff, but just turning something off and saying it's not available to this tier, to me, just I don't know. At least to me, anyways, it just seems like a waste. Why not let people use the full extent of, especially if it's just a driver, a switch and a driver. Yeah, no, that's definitely good. Well,
speaking of driver switches, this is exactly what they're doing on their 30 series graphics cards, like the 3060, like the 3060 Ti came out, and miners were like, oh, this thing's really efficient. It has a good hash rate. Let's buy all of them.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of consumers were getting annoyed that there was no stock, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. Not only the crypto miners, but there's also a chip shortage. But in the non-TI version, they implemented a driver that would detect if you're crypto mining, and then like only give you like half the performance, if that. Like it would neuter like the capability. Well, seeing we're talking about it, the funny thing is Nvidia apparently accidentally leaked a developer driver that doesn't have that switch in there. So they were like, oh, let's keep buying them. Like,
oh my word!
I know that both these stories are a little dated, but this past month or two, and I figure I mention them. I'm a proponent of, if you buy the hardware, you should be able to do whatever you want, and that they shouldn't be able to impose what you think is allowed. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's my point. Like, if you're gonna make a piece of hardware, why limit it with another piece of software just because they didn't buy into the next highest tier? Why not just make better equipment for that tier, or just provide it for everyone? I don't know. It's just personal opinions, but that's
shout out
definitely
AMD.
Yeah, y'all the real MVPs. Oh my word! All right, well, we'll catch everyone next time. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Check out new videos. We're gonna try an upload schedule, but no promises.
Yep. Bye.